need someone to talk to and you don't know what to do, call us 214-4400 when you're feeling all alone and they turn their back on you. Call us 214-4400. Call us 214-4400. Call us 214-4400. Call us.
You're listening to the Kind Counseling Podcast. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Now back to the show. Welcome to the Kind Counseling Podcast. It's your host, Dania Roberts. And today, in Super Bowl weekend, Valentine's weekend next week, we got a good show for you guys. And today we're talking about what do men want from women. All right. And this is a conversation amongst men today. I got my guys here today. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Fellas, if you guys could just introduce yourselves real quick and let the audience know who you are. Anybody?
Well, I'm Dania Roberts, and I'm a real estate professional for the last 2.5 decades. 12 years as a real estate attorney, then started selling both commercial and residential real estate, mostly in Philadelphia. I happen to be the brother of Mr. Kind Counseling himself, and so just happy to be here. It's my I'm on my second marriage, and so got a couple of stories along the way. So so I'm looking forward to the discussion.
All right. Good to have you, man. Good to have you.
Appreciate it.
Well, I could go. I'm Al. I help Cammy here co-host sometimes. I'm his favorite cousin, right? I'm a 20-year Navy veteran, retired Navy veteran. And I live in the state of Virginia. I'm actually also on my second marriage, and I'm just happy to be here and have this discussion. I'm also been married for 15 years, so hopefully I can bring something to this table that's productive. That's really all I got.
All right. I'm Fred Charles, 27 years in the classroom. Also dabble a little bit in real estate myself. Married for 20 years, 2 kids, and looking forward to having this conversation. Have done several podcasts with Mr. Roberts, and I'm glad to be part of this one again tonight.
All right, so we got some veterans here tonight, man. Of course, you guys know me. I introduce myself all the time. Been married 30 years this year. All right, 30 years. I'm an old man in the game. All right, so I trust these guys. These are good guys, and I figured that we'd have a good conversation tonight. I talk to a lot of women also, like in my practice, as well as my wife, my daughter, friends, family, that kind of stuff, and there genuinely seems to be like a real disconnect between men and women these days. I'm not sure exactly when it started, but today it seems like it's just kind of going out of hand. So I just figured we maybe we'd bring some clarity, some insight, to this subject, and just have a conversation. So I'm just gonna start out with a couple questions. Guys, just are men really that simple? Like, are we like our needs really simple, or are we, or that's the tag we get? What do you guys think? It's a little more complex than that. What do you guys think?
I think each man is different, but I do think we are simple creatures, right? Like for men, we're like hunters, right? So we just try to find things like we could hunt and conquer. Whether that's with work, in our professional scale, in our personal lives, I think that's just how we are, right? And when it comes to simple, I think we all have one or two things that's like our thing, whether it's like for me, it's like motorcycles. And that's like something that we find to be, something that keeps us grounded or keeps us entertained. And that's pretty much a focus, right? I think so we are kind of simple creatures, right? We just like happiness, we just like peace. And we just like the simple things that bring us joy. We don't need a lot to make us happy, I think, and that's a misconception that
Mm.
people have is that men need so much to be happy and content. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Okay. All right.
I think
Anyone
most
you
men are simple.
say it again?
And Al hit it. You know, peace, some quiet. Uh, I saw a comedian. He said it best. He says, we want women around. They just don't have to be next to us. So like we want them in the area, and I think
Right.
there's some truth to that. But they could be downstairs. As long as we know that they're there. Not necessarily, obviously, not all the time, but for the most part, want to come home, chill for a little bit, solo, and when it's time to interact with your family, you do that. But keep it simple, peace and quiet.
All right.
So I don't know. I mean, I feel like the the so-called simple needs of men are often so misunderstood and so ignored, um, that I mean, we think it's simple. Maybe it's simple to us,
Mm.
but um,
Good point.
oftentimes it feels um, like the needs that we have are not oftentimes placed on as high of a priority. I mean, I can't remember the comedian, but he talked about Father's Day being the 20th most um, important
Right.
holiday of anything else. He was like Arbor's Day, the day for the trees is more important
Right.
than um, than uh, than Father's Day, things like that. So I think that sometimes these so-called simple things for us are oftentimes, maybe not paid as much attention to as it could and should. And maybe it's because we have been, you know, it's been a male-dominated patriarchal society, and therefore people who are more powerful can afford to be ignored a little bit more. Maybe, I don't know, but um,
Well,
it feels like simpler times where men understand what women need and women understand what men need, that those times are maybe not as simple as they used to be.
mm. Okay. Well, I mean, there seems to be like a movement now for men to get in touch with their feelings and communicate more. I mean, when I first started the practice, I was probably 90% women, which was about 15 years ago. Now it's probably about 50-50, right, in terms of men and women. So men are clearly looking to get their looking to talk more and deal with their issues more. So for you guys, what makes a man feel like truly like chosen, right? Not just needed. Like what for you guys, like personally, what makes you feel truly chosen?
What do you mean chosen? Like chosen by a significant other?
Yeah,
What
by
do
a
you mean?
significant other. I'm sorry, yeah, by a significant other. Who else you getting chosen by, man?
Hey, like, how do you mean that you like chosen? Chosen by who? I mean, I guess I always look at it, I guess from my perspective is, you know, my own flaws and my own issues that I have. It's a choice that she's making to deal with those and accept those.
Mm,
And I guess to me, I feel chosen because I know I could be 100% me around her. It's nothing that I have to sugarcoat, hide, or pretend to be a person that I'm not. She knows my strengths, my weaknesses, and she accepts those. And that's, I think, hard to find even in the world, even with friends,
mm,
family, people, coworkers. It's hard to find somebody that can always just accept you 100% as who you are, right? Like the like for me, the impatient me or the neat freak me or
mm,
whatever flaws that I have. I central focus a lot too, and that's something that she understands and accepts. So for me, I feel chosen by her because she chooses to accept me as me. and every day she makes that choice to live that life with me. So I guess that's how I feel chosen.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, um, I think in my first marriage when we talked, we would when we first started talking before we even met, we would talk and talk and talk on, a couple of times we talked until the sun came up the next morning. I was like, who's this, Um, and this was before cell phones, so we didn't even know what the other one looked like type thing. But we just enjoyed kind of talking with each other. With my wife now, I remember before we got married when she was living up in North Jersey and I was living in Philadelphia, and it was, you know, during the COVID time, and she would come all the way down to Philadelphia to exercise with me. And I'm like,
Wow.
okay.
All right.
She drove
Man,
almost 2 hours to be exercising
man.
with me. I was like,
Exercise,
all right.
huh? All right.
I was like, all right, she really want to hang out. So I
Hmm.
think it's it's the simple things that say, you're thought of, that you're
Hmm.
desired, like just about every morning my wife makes breakfast for us. I've never had to concern myself about um washing clothes, for example. Before I was married, I used to take it to the laundromat and do the wash and fold thing. And and I've never had to concern myself about things like that. It just makes my life easier. And so that helps me to feel chosen.
Good. That's good.
Time, spending time, that's our most valuable commodity. So if a woman wants to spend time with you, that lets you know that you matter, that you are important to them. And that's been the case for me and my wife.
Okay. All right. So nobody said sex, but all right. Okay.
I wanted to jump in kind of to speak on
Yeah,
what Fred and Damon just said, right? Like we've been talking about men being simple, right? But I mean, those are what we consider simple things, but those are things that make us feel special, right? Like Fred was saying, time, like my wife watches football, basketball, all my craziness, and she does not have to. Most of the time, she doesn't even like to, but I enjoy it. I enjoy telling her stuff about sports or whatever, and I know she doesn't care. She really doesn't. She's just doing it because she knows I care. And to me, that means a lot. Like you're really doing this just because you know I care about it. And you could care less who wins the game. I mean, she knows enough that we can have the conversation, but I know deep down she really doesn't care. But she does it to show that I care because you care. And I think that means a lot too. And that's a simple thing, right? It's the simple things like Damon was just saying, even like the laundry, right? Like those are things that means like a lot to us, right? Like those simple things show like, hey, you appreciate who I am as a person, if that makes sense.
I went to play some racquetball recently, and I noticed I had some ashiness on my legs, right? So so I'm play so I'm so I said to my racquetball partner, I said, if my wife saw me right now, she'd be ashamed of me. He said, why? I said, because I got this ashiness on my legs. He said, ain't nobody looking at your legs. And so I said, but if she saw my legs, she would want to make sure I got some Vaseline on it. And he said that's because she cares. I mean,
Hmm.
and it's simple things like that. I mean, uh, it it's one of those things. I think if you've been around long enough and the older men get, that sex is available, to bring up what you were talking about, Cammy, you know. Um, but I guess you get to a certain stage where it's like that's kind of a given, you know. I mean, it's a part of married life, and certainly it's an important thing, and you want to feel desired in that department as well. But sometimes it's the basic things like getting along, like having peace in your home, you
Right.
know, like being able to laugh together, enjoying a conversation together, going out and enjoying some very, you know, a walk in the park. You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be fancy, you know. So
Okay. Fred, you want to say anything?
Oh, I totally agree. I think for me, a big part of my relationship with my wife is the conversations that we have, right? Because if you're spending time, like, what are you doing during that time? So we can talk wherever. I mean, it could be at the breakfast table. It could be, like Damon said, taking a walk through the park, but we always talk. We've always spoken. That was just the hallmark of our relationship, those late night conversations that he made reference to. And I think if you don't have that in a relationship, right, then you probably don't have much because what else is there? I mean, the sex can only go so much. That can only bring you so far. After a while,
Mm.
that's going to lose its savor if you don't have a real relationship with the person.
Good. That's good. Um, what do men want from relationships that they're afraid to admit, right? Because obviously as men we carry we have the armor on, and a lot of times we don't like to be vulnerable. So what are some things that men want from relationships that I'm asking you guys that men typically are afraid to admit? Not a trick question. Okay, I'll start first. Okay. All right. I like cuddling. Okay.
He said, I like
Okay.
cuddling.
All right. I mean,
You
hey,
look like a cuddler.
I look like a cuddler. I don't know, man. I'm the guy who is, physical touch is my love language. So I just always got to have my leg on my wife or my hand on her or something. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, and I think sometimes she assumes that I'm trying to get some, but I'm just like, nah, I just want to be around you. You know what I mean?
you're
So,
not trying.
I mean, if it happens, I mean, I'm just saying.
It
It
happens.
happens.
I
I'm
mean,
not gonna
I'm
turn it
just saying.
down, but
I mean, I'm not gonna
I think
stop her.
attention.
I
I,
mean,
I think men don't want to admit that we like attention.
all right,
I
what you
think
mean?
it's
What you mean?
we always fit because it's always made like women like attention, and all that stuff. But at least I think we like attention too from our significant other. You know what I mean? Whether it's,
Mhm.
oh man, your haircut look nice, or you know what I'm saying? We kind of like that little,
Right.
oh yeah, she saw me. You know what I mean? We like that too. Like, and
Right.
I think we try to fake the funk like we don't like that stuff, or we don't like compliments, or we don't like the mushy stuff. But at least for me, deep down, I mean, I like it. I like attention from my wife. You know what I'm saying? I like oh,
Of
you look
course.
nice. Oh, you know what I mean? Your haircut look good, or that's a nice outfit. Be like, yeah, yeah. You know, like, so I think that's something that we kind of pawn off to them a lot. Like, women be loving attention and women, but I think men,
Right.
we like attention from them too.
Of course. Of course.
what you say, Fred?
Um, Attention obviously is that's definitely true, but I'm gonna go back to my previous answer. Time for me, like time is important, and it doesn't have to be we're sitting there talking the entire time. I'm gonna go back to that, the comedian. I want to know that she's around. Like I want to know that she's in the vicinity, right? That's important to me.
Mm.
So her time and her availability is important to me.
All right, so man, but I asked you, what are men afraid to admit?
I think that's the answer. That's my answer.
Okay.
I think men might not be so quick to admit that they want their women around.
Mm.
So
That's actually true, man. You want to say something? Go ahead.
yeah, I'm gonna say something.
Go ahead.
Um, like when I used to host these male female conversation type things, and it's very it's easier, I think, for women to say they want to be treated like a queen, you know,
Mm,
um, uh, and to be treated special and to be adored and all that type of stuff. But it sounds almost strange for a man to say, "I want to be treated like a king," you know,
mm,
um, to have my to be ultimately, and I think this is biblical, is to be respected, to feel respected, you
mm,
know. Um, and the scriptures will tell, husbands love your wives, but wives respect your husbands. And ultimately, I think that we want to know that we are looked up to, that our counsel is important, that our vision is respected, you know,
mm,
um, and that we have your support, not only when times are good or when we can very easily provide, but if things are not so good, or if you if you got hurt, or if you got fat, or if or if your money is not as long as it used to be, you want to know that this is your ride or die,
mm.
regardless.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay, so I guess you guys made this conversation real serious, but I asked also I want to ask what as a man, what would make you shut down emotionally in a relationship? Like what would, just shut you down?
Again, I would have to go back to the attention, right? Like once you're not giving me the attention I feel I deserve or I need, I think that's when you kind of shut down. Or even if it's just like you're not seeing or acknowledging the things that I'm doing, right?
Mm,
I think at least for me, I talk about love language. Mine is I do things, right? I like doing things for people. But I also like when I'm doing things for people, I would like some type of acknowledgement. And I think I can only speak for myself. For me, shutting down or getting quiet or not having the conversations we should be having is when I feel like the things that I'm doing aren't being acknowledged, or I'm not getting the attention that I need for the things that I am doing. It's like you're not seeing me, if that makes sense. But that is my love language, is I'm a doer, like I'm a doer, but
mm.
that shuts me down. Like I done did all this and you don't notice it. You know
Mm.
what I mean?
So you mean
Like,
like appreciation? That's what you're saying?
yeah, I guess it would be that appreciation, but then it goes back to what I was saying before. Like, you know what I mean? For me, I like attention, right? So.
Mm,
And I'm not saying you got to give me all the attention, but at least you could acknowledge that, hey, oh, you did that. You know what I mean? You saw, like, you see me. Like, and I'm not doing it because I want that, if that makes sense. I'm not doing it for you to say you
mm,
know, I'm not doing it with that purpose in mind. Like, I'm just doing something to get you to say, oh, great job. But it would be
mm,
nice for you to see the things that I am doing and acknowledge them, because after a while, I think. If you're just doing stuff for people that they don't see, eventually you'd be like, well, what's the point, right?
yeah.
Eventually you stop having those type of conversations too. Like, or if you're like, even your complaints, right? Even if it's like, hey, I have a problem with this, and I've voiced that I have a problem with this, and you don't want to acknowledge, me and what I'm saying, then I think that'll shut you down too, because it's like, yo, what's the point? Like, I'm not about to keep telling you the same stuff over and over, right? Same thing, kind of like what Damon is saying. It's like that respect level, right? If you're not respecting me, then why we,
Mm,
that'll shut you down too, right? Like, why are we even having these conversations anymore? Because you're not respecting what I'm saying, you're not acknowledging what I'm doing, and you're not listening to the things that I have an issue with, if that makes sense.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I mean, for me, I have, I think, a very high tolerance for certain things, and I don't get angry very often. But when I get angry, I can get very, very angry. And um and so the the things that can set me off are, as it relates to a woman, would be, for example, being up in my face and finger pointing, and being very nasty or accusatory, or overly critical, that type of thing. And if I and having experienced that, you know, like I want nothing to do with it, nothing to do with it at all. So if there's overly aggressive type scenario or even close to it, I'll just shut it down. I'll shut it down. I'll be
Mm.
quiet. And then when she's ready, then she'll see that, now's the time to come back to me, and it'll probably be a different disposition, So
Okay.
yeah, but that shuts me down. Even a hint of it. I'm grateful that my wife is a peaceful person, but she's not peaceful 100% of the time. So that's so just being quiet is the way that she gets the message from me, at least.
I think definitely a woman who's critical or overly critical, that is very annoying. But I think for me, a woman who is inconsiderate, women are naturally nurturing. So if a woman is inconsiderate, then it's almost as if she's going against the natural order of things. So a woman
Mm.
who's not considerate of me, my feelings, even little things like when my wife comes home and she has something for me, I don't necessarily need it, but it's nice to have this little gift because it tells me that she's considering me. And if a woman is not doing that, then that's problematic.
Okay. Okay. Um, and another question for you guys. Before you like commitment is a big issue these days, right? Before you guys got married, right? Being committed to a woman, and marrying her, was that scary for you, or was that hard for you?
Uh,
Like making that commitment.
I think after you know, however many years of being out there, you get to a point where you're just like, okay, I can't live personally, I can't live my life like this forever. And you get to a point where it gets stale, the revolving door, so to speak.
Mm.
And I just remember being in a club thinking like, man, I don't want to do this no more, man. Just standing in line, looking at women, chasing them. I'm ready to settle down, right? So you just now the goal is you got to find the right woman, right? You find someone who uh, has the things, most of the qualities that you want. For me, I was able to figure that out because I had a relationship where the woman had most of the qualities I didn't want. So sometimes you got to go through the muck and the mire before you find that
Mm.
diamond in the rough.
Mm.
So for me, commitment, when I reached that place where I was ready to commit, I just knew that there were certain things I had to do to get ready to be committed, i.e., saving my shekels, because you can have all the commitment intention in the world, but if you have no money, it's not going to work out.
Mm. Mm. Fred, quick question on that. With guys today, what do you think is because I hear that a lot, that like guys today don't want to commit, right? Like they have these. I mean, I'm sure that happened when we were younger also, but you think there's anything to it as to why guys might be struggling with commitment these days?
Well, I think, and I don't want to sound like an old fuddy duddy, but this social media that we're inundated with, really,
Mm.
I think it's changed people's brains, right?
Mm.
Particularly when it comes to socializing. They call it social media, but it really has made us less social, right?
Right.
So for example, when my son was um, dating and he was meeting people online, he told me he had gone on a date and that was the first time he spoke to the woman. and they pretty much their interactions were limited to just texting through the app. And I found that fascinating because, like Damon said earlier, you're on the phone for hours,
Right.
hours
Yeah.
talking to these women, getting to know each other, right? Before, if you know, if you, especially if you haven't met or haven't gone on a date yet, you're spending hours just talking. And I can't imagine uh, meeting somebody for the first time and going on a date with them for the first time. And the first time I hear her voice is when we sit down at the dinner table or meet at wherever we're meeting. So I think social media has really warped men's perception of how to interact with women to a point where men don't even feel the need to interact with women, right? I don't think there's a push for men to interact because they don't have to, especially when it comes to sex. Men are getting sex virtually, and that plays a big part in how men might look at commitment. It's not necessary.
That's a good point. Damon, you look like you're having a thought, man.
How
What's
you
wrong?
mean getting sex virtually? What does that even mean?
What do you think it means?
No, I don't know. I don't know a virtual way to have sex.
I mean, listen, the ubiquity of pornography.
Okay, I got you.
You have uh, obviously OnlyFans. People are going to these sorts of avenues instead of having to have real life relationships with people.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get
But
it.
do they know how to have relationships with people? So that's the interesting thing because
Right.
I mean I'm around middle schoolers and high schoolers are now a lot, even with the coaching stuff, and most of these young men don't know how to have a conversation with young women, and they're fearful of having
Yeah.
conversations with young women because they don't know what
Mm.
could be the backlash of that. Like I think the social media does have something to play into it too. It's also a fair thing, right? Like if I say something to her, is this gonna go crazy. Like, you know what I mean? I can't, if I tell her I like her and then they scared to even say that in a text, are you going to screenshot it and share it with everybody and call
Mm.
me a simp?
Mhm.
Wow.
I hear these little boys, I mean, they're 13, 14 years old making fun of each other for being nice to a young lady, even if they're just nice. Like, hold the door for her and they get made fun of by their other classmates. Like, oh, you're a simp. You held the door for her. Ha ha ha. I'm
Mhm.
like, holding the
Wow.
door for a young lady is wrong, but that's how their peers. And I'm not saying they even really think that. I think they just do it because they think it's cool or it's funny or whatever the case is.
Mm.
So now they
Yeah.
put up these blockades where they don't even want to interact with young ladies, and I'm sure on their aspects the same thing the young woman feels like. These young dudes are weird too. There's a lot of weird
Yeah.
stuff going on. Like,
I saw this statistic a few months ago. Can't remember the specifics of it, but something along the lines of teen pregnancies have gone down, right? And back in the
right.
day, you'd be like, "Oh, you want to keep kids away from teen pregnancies," and now it's just gone down, but not because people have more self-control, but because they have the inability to
Right.
interact,
Right. Right.
and so it's troubling for the wrong reason, right? Um, and so yeah, that's it's concerning for a number of different reasons. Number one, because you want populations to keep up. you
Right.
know, you want people to actually get along because, you know, basic things like interaction and socialization and family, that's the basis of a society, right?
Mm.
So if you can't even do that, that's a real problem. But to get back to the
Yeah.
question
Commitment.
was about commitment.
Right.
Um, for me, um, I- in my 20s and through early 30s, I noticed a pattern with myself where I'd probably be in a relationship for about 10 months or so, and then you start thinking about, could this really go somewhere? Da da da, and it would last about 10 months. And after a while, it became really strange. What is it? 9, 10 months into it, and it just happened over and over and over again. till finally I got into this. I was in this personal development class, and it took me all the way back to being a teenager, where I remember an interaction with my mom, and I was just trying to help her wash some dishes or something, and I think she wanted me to wash the dishes as I went along, but I kind of let it pile up and then washed it when it was done. And she turned to me and she said, "I'm sorry for the woman who ever marries you," you know. um, and um, and I guess I must have just forgotten about it, but I'm sitting in this personal development course and I'm remembering this thing like it was
Mm,
there. And I think oftentimes the undealt with trauma, can, I think, have people react in certain ways as it relates to commitment. And I think one of the undealt with traumas that we have in society that's not talked about sufficiently is the amount of divorce that is going on.
You're listening to the Kind Counseling Podcast. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Now back to the show.
And the effect that it has on kids, you know. Um
Good
and
point.
and so it makes people, I think, scared of commitment, and scared for what that could look like. For me, I think I ended up living into what you know uh, uh, what my mom said during my first marriage was, I'm sorry for the woman who marries you. I mean, I felt like I lived it in some ways, and um, where she had her complaints, I certainly had mine, but that was there in my unconscious, until it was dealt with.
Okay. Alan, what about you? Was commitment hard for you?
Um, I would say not necessarily.
Oh, by the way,
Um,
I'm sorry. After that personal development course, within 6 months, I was married. The
there
first
you
time.
go.
Yeah, you got
You
your
got
money's worth.
it. Yeah, right?
Right.
Um, I don't think so. I think my issues was always, I guess, I always wanted like a family and wife and kids and all that. So I set up from a young age, I always wanted that, right? So with my first marriage, that obviously didn't work because I think I wanted it. I wanted that marriage and life a little bit too much, and I was too young for that.
Mm,
And we were not compatible. I know that now looking back, like that should have never, but that was something I wanted. Like I want that life, right?
mm,
Um, so I don't think committing to my wife now was hard. I think my issues I always had was my own self-esteem, if that makes sense. So I
mm,
always looked for validation
mm.
in women, like a boost up. So I used to get hype of the, oh, you're cute or you're whatever, you know what I mean? So I was always chasing that thing, but it wasn't really a fear of a commitment. I think it was more of a lack of self-esteem that I had to grow out of as I became a younger man. So I mean, when I was younger, I'm not gonna sit up here and lie and say I was the perfect husband. I did things I probably should have never did, but it wasn't a lack of commitment to her. I think it was more of a self-esteem issue that I had to work through myself. So I was always looking for validation in other places to make me feel like, I was good enough per se. Um, but I don't think men have a problem with commitment. I don't think women have a problem with commitment either. I think we have a fear of what that looks like. Like, what does committing to somebody actually look like? Are you gonna be able to accept that person and all their flaws? Like, we're too quick to, I think, hold people to a standard that we don't even really hold ourselves to. And then when they don't reach that standard, we're like, oh man, I don't want to deal with you no more, or you're not good enough, or whatever the case is. But sometimes it's not even a standard we hold ourselves to. So I think once we learn that you kind of, and I say this too, and I've said this for years. and I say it to guys now that I deal with like in the motorcycle world, is that people are naturally committed to stuff, right? Or loyal and committed to stuff. It's just what are they loyal and committed to, right?
Mm,
Whatever that might be. I think we're naturally loyal and naturally want to commit to things. It's just, are you going to commit to this person? Are you going to love somebody regardless? Like you got to know their flaws and know their negatives, and you have to love that, right? Even for like brotherhood or sisterhood or friendship, right? You have to know that
mm,
this person is this way and you have to love them for it. You can't look at them and say, "Oh, you're flawed, so I don't want to be committed to you," or "I don't love you anymore," when you have your own flaws. So I think for me, commitment in my marriage wasn't a problem. I think my biggest problem was my own lack of self-esteem. I think I was always committed to her. I just wasn't truly understanding like the man that I was at the time when I was younger. But I grew
mm.
out of that. I think I grew into being a better husband. So I think maybe for her is probably the question because I mean her commitment to me is because I mean there were times I mean and even now I'm thankful to God that she stuck with me through all the things I went through because I mean I look back at some of the stuff I did and I was like I can't believe you stuck it out. But she knew that she loved me for the person I was, and I was saying that earlier, even when I wasn't the best I could have been, she still loved me then. So I didn't have a problem with commitment at all. That's just me.
I think that we live in a society where people don't have examples of what it means to be in a committed relationship.
True.
So, there's not a manual that's going to give you the rules, right? You really have to see it being lived out before you through your parents or your grandparents so that you can get an idea of what it looks like. We also live in a very individualistic society, a society that
True. Right.
endorses this microwave mentality, right? Everything is instant and everything's also disposable. So, if you get when you get tired of your car, even though your car only has 30,000 miles on it, you just trade it in and get a new one, right?
Right.
So we treat relationships like that. We just get tired and we dispose of them, and that's not how it works, And I think about when people say, you marry for love, and you fall in love and then you get married, and that's nice and sweet, but that type of love, that butterfly feeling in your stomach, is not what's going to sustain a relationship, right? When you wake up every day, you
Mm,
have to make a decision to love your spouse, right? When
Exactly.
she's upset with you or when you're upset with her, you still have to make that decision every single day. I'm going to love this person despite what they did, despite what they smell like, despite the fact that they've gained 15 pounds or 20 pounds, right? And we don't live in a society like that values
mm.
people. It's all about us and how we feel and how they make us feel. And when those feelings stop, you go back to Walmart and you find another wife.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. That's really interesting that you say that. And I think there's some very basic things that are not taught, commitment being one of them, you know,
mm.
um, dealing with failure,
Right.
dealing with loss, you know, those dealing with basic budgets, I mean, like it's a lot of things that are just not taught. And like you said, and then the other things that are, whether they are deliberately promoted or not, and when I say that, I mean there are certain societies that promote interdependence, right?
Mm, true.
Like, um, you can say what you want about certain Indian societies where, and arranged marriages, those arranged marriages tend to work better than the marriage for love and butterflies in your stomach and all that. But I don't think we see that a um as a crisis. Like if for example, if you were driving a car and two out of every four tires fell off while you were driving, right?
Mm,
that car would be recalled. That would be a problem, you know. But 2 out of every 4 marriages are falling apart, and we don't look at it uh, as the kind of crisis that it is because it promotes um, the falling apart of society. You
Right.
know, commitment as a but commitment as a basis for a good structured society, I think, is important. But certain societies promote that more, right?
Mhm.
Certain more traditional societies where you see that if the husband is acting out or the wife is, talking back too much or something like that, they'll pull each other in, or certain church cultures that support each other in that kind of way, you know. We don't see that. In fact, we see the promotion of the opposite. Like, you go onto Tinder, for example, you don't like somebody's, whatever, you just swipe left, swipe right. It doesn't, I mean, like, the people become completely disposable, and that
Right.
doesn't work um for long-term relationships. It just doesn't.
Right.
And I think that's
Fred,
the
you
other
I
wanted to
think,
say? Yeah.
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
that's the other thing. We
Mhm.
also have uh way too much access to more,
Yeah.
right? So let's think about, we're all old enough. If we go back to 1999, right? Because it wasn't too long ago. How many women do you think the average American man was meeting per week, right? So if the average American man, let's say at the age of 25 to 30, if he's meeting one woman every week, that might be a lot on average.
Depends on the guy, but go ahead.
It depends on the guy, but there's going to be guys who don't meet anybody, right?
That's true. That's
There's
true.
going to be guys who don't meet anybody. So let's just say he meets 1 or 2 women a week on average. And I think that's a high number.
Okay.
You fast forward 27 years.
Right.
How many women are guys meeting on a daily basis with social media,
True.
all these different apps? So
It's
now
true.
think about when you walk into a Baskin Robbins, you got 31 flavors, and you're standing there and it's taking you forever to make a decision. Or when you're flipping through Netflix and you spend more time flipping through the options than watching a
Right.
television show. You know why?
Right.
Because options are not always the best. Too many
Mhm.
options aren't always good. You know what? Vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry, make a decision and let's keep it moving, right? But we have all these other flavors, and I don't think the human brain is good at being content, making a decision, sticking with it, and not thinking, man, I should have tried that, butter pecan.
Right. Right. It's a good point, Fred. Um,
Decision fatigue.
right.
Decision
decision. Right,
fatigue. That's a
right.
good way of putting it. Yes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I remember I was counseling a woman and she just got out of a marriage. She was married for about 15 years and I guess the husband cheated. And she said, she told me, all these years where I could have cheated or I could have left or whatever, now I'm going to make up for that. And she told me she was literally dating 15 guys at the same time, like going on dates with 15 guys at the same time. And I couldn't even imagine that. But she was saying she's having the time of her life. But you know what I mean? So I mean, going back to what you were saying,
Yeah.
Fred.
But do you think, I'm not trying to shrink her, but do you think that's her having a time of her life, or that's her masking some type of depression or lack of self-worth? And I think that's also what's happening in the society
Pain.
too. It's this fake sense of this is the time of my life.
Right.
And you have these young men and young women trying to live some time of their life they're trying to live, and I think that's masking lack of self-worth, and it's also masking a lot of depression. Um,
You're right. She was in a
so
lot of pain because her husband cheated on
right.
her. Right.
But that's what's happening with a lot. I mean, you look at people like, you have this weird culture now where these young ladies think that it's okay for them to be hypersexual. because they think that's what is being called from them, right? Or what's being accepted. And it shouldn't be, but that's how they look at it. Like, oh, I have to act or be this way because that's how I should act or be in order to get the attention that I'm seeking for.
Mm.
And that's also pushing the young men away, right? Because deep down, I don't think any man wants a hypersexualized woman, right? So they're kind of, the young men are like, oh, I don't want to deal with that either. So it's kind of a weird disconnect. But deep down, when you hear them talk alone, it seems like the young men and the young women are both looking for the same thing. It's like they just can't get together and have that conversation with each other. It's the weirdest thing. Um,
There's a statistic that shows that for every, and this is for men and women, for every sexual partner, particularly for women, for every sexual partner they have, their marriage will end up in a divorce exponentially more, because there's this in the back of your mind, man. Keisha was like a snake in bed, right? And when you get married, right, and if your wife is not a snake in bed, you're gonna always be thinking about Keisha and the things that she did, and you're gonna compare, and then you would like a composite of all your partners into one person. The odds are you're never gonna get that, right?
Mm.
Um, and to piggyback on what you were saying, Al, as far as these women being hypersexualized, I think women today are also misguided to believe what men really want in a woman when it's time to settle down. So, like, I don't know if you guys watch Pop the Balloon, and I know this sounds silly, but I'm conducting a private study about how these women, the women who come on the show, who are dressed like hoes, let's call it a spade, those women, I think almost
As
100% of the
in
time,
garden tools.
yes, garden tools,
garden tool.
they almost 100% of the time leave that show by themselves, because I
Mm.
don't believe men really want that. They want their wife to be freaky behind closed doors, but not publicly. They don't want their wives dressed that way or talking that way, behaving that way. But these women are under the impression that if they come to be like one of these video vixens, that's exactly what's going to catch a man, and they couldn't be further from the truth.
But I
I
think
mean,
that's a lot of confusion though, because I think men in the culture, you would say, are kind of making it seem like that's what they want. So the women are going off of what they're seeing and hearing,
Yes,
and they're
so
thinking that that's what men want
we are
because
schizophrenic.
that's what they're being told, right? So they assume I have to be this way because I think that's what men want, when necessarily that might not be what they want. But going back to what you were saying before, I know you brought up earlier, we were talking about the pornography thing too. I think that's also a bad thing for relationships because men maybe consuming pornography and then trying to think that their significant other needs to be or act that way. And that could also be a hindrance to a relationship. Because guess what? Like you shouldn't like it shouldn't be something you're trying to emulate or trying to make your significant other emulate, right? And I think that hurts relationships too. So it's like you were saying though too, it's too much, right? It's too much overloading, right? It's too much information. It's like you're giving people too much information for them to focus, and it's confusing them all. Women are confused, the men are confused, and the craziest thing about it is when you pull them apart and you have
right,
these conversations with them by themselves. And I'm
right,
talking about young men and women. I'm not talking about like our age. I mean, I talk to like teenagers and stuff. You realize they're saying the same thing. They're
right,
both saying the same thing, but they just for some reason can't get to hear and say it to each other. Like the women are saying this is what they want. The young men are saying this is what they want. It's the same thing, but then you guys get around each other and act like
right, right.
it's like
And,
something completely different.
yeah, and I and and that I think that goes back to whether people are just influenced by their own thoughts and desires, or whether they are influenced by a community and the society in which we live. And I'm a big believer that we are influenced by the community and the environment that we are a part of. You know, you might see it within the educational context of a kid. Like I would go into schools, for example, and within the first 2 minutes, you walk into school and this school has a really great principal, because you can see
Mm,
just based on how the kids are behaving, you know, whether it's a well-run school or not, you know. And I think that likewise, um, I mean, all the wrong messages are being sent on a societal level right now. You know,
mm.
is this a well-led society where certain um, people have been able to get away with so much, where lying is so frequent, where if you cheat you can get away with it, where the types of shows we watch, or the type of, the de-escalating influence of church, and spiritual things, I mean, so it it doesn't set us up for good results. It just doesn't.
Right.
And
Um, you want to, I'm sorry, did I cut you off there?
go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Just last question. Um, I know the time is getting by here. I talked to a lot of men today, and they're really struggling with knowing what the man's role is, right? Or what, what is expected of a man, right? For you guys, how did you learn that? Like, was that something that was taught? Was that something you read in a book? Was that, you observe people? Like, how did you learn that? Because a lot of men are struggling with that.
I think foundationally, in terms of the very traditional man who provides, I saw my dad do that, right? He'd wake up every morning, he'd go to work, and when he came home, the bills were paid for and we had food in the fridge and the lights never got cut off, right? So he wasn't a man of many words. He wasn't an emotional man. It wasn't, Mike Brady or Cliff Huxtable. He wasn't that guy. But in
Mm,
terms of providing for a family, I think that's number one. Uh, and then I think because I wasn't born in Haiti in 1933 like my father was, there are other mores and values that I've picked up upon from being an American, being raised here, right? So there are things that you see in other families, like, oh, I like that. I should be able to do that, right? Spending time with your kids. Not that my
mm,
dad didn't spend time with us, but he certainly wasn't having these conversations with me and my brother that I may have with my kids, right? It was just he was a different guy, different time. And also, I think the final thing is, are you listening to your wife? Like, your wife should be communicating with you,
mm.
and if she hasn't, then you're perfect. She should be communicating with you things that she wants and needs from you, right? And if you are a sensitive man, if you're a man who can pick up on these cues, uh, you should begin to implement them and provide those things to her.
All right. Anybody else want to jump in?
I guess I would say I'm kind of the opposite of Fred. For me, my dad wasn't around, so I guess I kind of looked at it. I always looked at it coming up as a teenager, like that's what I was not gonna be.
Mm,
So I wanted to pride myself when I did get of age to have a family and not be doing the things he was doing, and make sure I had stability for my children once I started having children. Um, but when it came to actually learning how to stand on my own 2 feet as a man, I want to say, and I might send this to him, one of the first chief petty officers I had in the Navy, was Chief Townsend, and he was from Detroit. And I think the way he carried himself and what he taught us as young, I mean, it was a few of us too, few knuckleheads from different areas that didn't want to listen or didn't want to do nothing. I think he kind of instilled in us what it was, not to just to be good sailors, but how to be good men and stand up men and handle your business and, you know what I mean, show up to work on time, look the way you're supposed to look. You know what I mean? 100%. Your word's supposed to be it. Like it doesn't, I mean, from the minute you got to quarters, and especially us as young black men, he used to be drilling at us in our head. He used to tell us things like every single day. One of his biggest things he used to always say was, if you here to, if you, he loves sports too. He was like, if you here to play basketball, you here to play ball. You suited up. If not, go sit on the bench or go home. He said, you know, you got to pick one. Like you either get in the game and play or go home or sit on the bench. You can't be straddling that fence. You know what I'm saying? And his biggest thing was, in anything you did, you gave it 100, no matter what it was. If you had to go clean, and you clean it 100%. Like, you know what I mean? So I think for us coming into the Navy and having that male leadership, I mean, he got a lot of us straight, where we just thought we knew everything, but he used to really, you know, drive it home. Your money better be right. Handle your business. Nobody cares. You know what I mean? That was his biggest thing too. Nobody cares about your complaining. If you got a family, your family's supposed to come first. Pay your bills. Um, Whatever you say out your mouth better be what it is. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, it better be 100. So I think he instilled a lot of that when I came into the Navy as a young man. He helped me grow to become not only a good sailor, but a good man. Because I don't think I really had that growing up in Brooklyn, because it wasn't really a lot to really look at. I mean, you had your few, like my cousin Cammy, but on the whole scope, you didn't have a lot of people that were doing a lot of positive things as men, right? Everybody was either selling drugs, going to jail. I mean, doing stupidity, numerous women, numerous children. You know what I mean? I didn't really have like a lot of peers that were so like great. You know what I mean? So when I joined the Navy to kind of get away from that, I think the Navy helped me a lot. And I wouldn't just say the Navy, because I had horrible leaders too in the Navy. But I did have one good leader early in my career, where I was early enough that I think he really kind of put us in the headlock, and literally sometimes, um, and taught us how to be men. And I try to even do that now with the young men I'm leading with, my son, even the young ladies I'm around. Is I think that's also something that's missing, is we don't have a lot of strong men in not just our homes, but in our communities, that are trying to instill these things into kids, right? Because I mean, you got a lot of young men walking around that aren't being told anything. They're just trying to figure it out. And then they going on social media trying to figure it out. And then a lot of them mamas is raising them. And that's not necessarily um the right environment to be coming up as a man either. Nothing wrong with single mothers raising men, raising boys. There's nothing wrong with that. But I do think strong men help to raise strong men. And I think that it's definitely needed and missed in our community.
And before D goes on, I think it's important to be critical of the concept of single mothers. If single mothers was what God wanted, then women would have babies by themselves. Men are essential.
Well, I mean, the stats are what the stats are. I
The
mean,
stats are the numbers are the numbers. Not to say that if you're a single mom, your kid is going to be go to jail. But I think if you are without a male figure who's going to pull your coat like your PTO did, you're going to be deficient in that area. Men, particularly boys need men to learn how to be a man. Women cannot do that.
Right.
It's not their function.
Damon, you wanna jump in?
Well, I mean, I definitely appreciate, what the other brothers said, I mean, for me, I mean, if I had somebody with a beard like Alan's, I might follow them anywhere, you know what I'm saying? Uh, but no, I think for me, I don't know. Like, I think probably the biggest influence for me was going to a church where I saw a difference in relationships, right? Like, I remember when I went through my divorce, it was like a shocking thing, because divorce was very, very uncommon in our church, you know. And um And so I think there were just, I mean, literally too many men to name who them, and I mean, it wasn't like they didn't have issues that they didn't have to deal with. One of the things is when I was much younger, I used to ask couples. I just was fascinated with relationships. Maybe it was because my parents' relationship didn't work out, but I was so fascinated with relationships. And so what I used to do is I would go and interview people who were married for a really long time. And I would ask them, what did you do to make it work? And people who had gotten divorced or people who were just starting to get married, like, what did you do to make it work? And one of the things that I saw with people who had been married for a long time, not one single one of them had a perfect relationship.
Mm, mm.
They'd gone through some things, some
Right.
ups and downs, and they were willing to kind of stick it through, willing to persevere, you know?
Mm.
And I think that kind of resilience is probably besides, I mean, obviously they'll say things like communication or, oh, you got to learn how to respect each other, things like that. But for the most part, it was resilience, being willing to stick it through. Even the relationships that we see that are publicly successful, like you know, Barack and Michelle Obama as an example. She'll talk about for 10 years,
Right.
I I couldn't
Yeah, yeah.
stand them, but after that, they figured it out, and
Mm.
so I think if we can stick it out and we can also help do our little part about creating communities where we can see positive successes, then I think it's easier for people to be it when they can see it.
Mm,
Yeah, that's good.
absolutely.
All right. So as we're about to close down the show, anybody with any last comments? No, might be opening another door by even saying that. But anybody want to say anything before we close off the show? You guys have been great. I wasn't sure what to expect. I don't know if y'all were gonna be clowns or if y'all were gonna be like too serious, but gave a good balance. So I commend you guys. Yeah, it's very good, very good.
Thank you.
So anybody want to share anything or say anything before
Well,
we
man,
before we close up?
Cammy, I just acknowledge you, man. Um, you've been married for what is it, almost 30 years now? Or is it
Almost
30
30.
years?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it'll
this
be
year is
30 in
30.
August, right?
This yeah, yes, this yes.
Okay. And like I remember when, we first heard of Dania and I was like, wait, he getting married real quick, I was like,
Hey.
uh, and
Right.
and to see it last over all these years and to see you raise your kids and stay together, I think that's something that's commendable, and I think that there needs to be a higher emphasis in society on just promoting the types of things that can produce those kinds of results. So I'm glad that you're talking about it, and just left a men's breakfast this morning with some men in my church, and to see us talking about what does good leadership look like, what does servant leadership look like in your
Right.
home, in your business, and et cetera. I mean, these very basic conversations, I think, leads to a network of conversations that can produce the kind of results that we hope for. So,
Amen. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you, sir. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for saying that. The grace of God. Okay, the grace of God.
Amen. Amen.
Amen to
The grace
that.
of God.
Resilience.
Yes, the grace of God. But yeah, man, it's I think for me it was just I think at a very young age, like I just always wanted a family, like young, right? For different reasons. And to me, I just figured once I found that person, that was it. Like, lock it down and throw away the key. You know what I mean? So, I mean, but like, I think everything you guys are saying is good. I mean, in terms of, commitment and having role models and people teaching you stuff and all that. But you also got to have a desire for that, right? You also got to
True.
have a desire for that. And, I was around a lot of, like men as a teenager and I sought those guys out who, I always look for the guys that had stable families. And I was like, I just observed them. You know what I mean? So, and I didn't know men cooked. I mean, I mean, I learned that from just being in other people's homes. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know men cooked. They went to the supermarket and did that kind of stuff. I didn't know that was a thing.
Mm.
But anyway, we do have to wrap up. Fred or Alan, I mean, like I keep saying that. You guys are good?
I'm good.
Go love your wife.
Hey, yeah, that's it.
She in
Hey,
Atlanta, man. I gotta sleep by myself tonight.
just one last thing to touch on, like Fred said, man,
Yeah.
love is a choice. It's not an
Yes.
emotion. It is
Yes.
definitely a
100%.
choice. Nope.
100%. All right, fellas. Thanks again for coming on, and I appreciate all the wisdom and the knowledge y'all threw out tonight.
Good to see you guys.
All right. You guys have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
If I ever took a loss, I learned a lesson. I won't ever think I'm better than the next man. I've been down before to come up, I ain't stressing. Baby, I'm too busy counting.